After slamming essentially countless hours of time into the brand new game that's gonna be Arknights Endfield, you might be a little bit lost on exactly what the hell is going on in this game. How are some players so far ahead of me while I haven't even made my first ever battery in the AIC? Where exactly am I doing wrong with my progression? Why are my teams not dealing enough damage? Why are my stock build supplies so slow compared to everyone else? Is this game simply way too difficult? Hey guys, PokkeCorp here, and today we're gonna be exploring the top 10 beginner mistakes you're probably making on Arknights Endfield and how you can correct them to have a much better experience playing this game as a whole. Now, for every single one of these tips, it is definitely going to be impactful for any players from your early game, mid game, late game, and you might even still be making mistakes to today, which can cost you quite a bit in terms of account progression. So without further ado, let's just get in immediately and jumping into our first mistake, and that is going to be focusing on your authority levels or your account levels. Now, this might be new to a lot of players from mainstream gacha, but Arknights Endfield does not give a damn about your account level and instead focuses on regional development level, which I'm going to be explaining a little bit later. In Arknights Endfield, the authority level's main purpose is pretty much just to unlock your story stages, with the key points being level 34 as well as level 43. With level 43 unlocking Wuling as you transition into endgame with gold gear production as well as new AICs to make more Wuling stock builds for that region. Now, this level is meaningless if you speedrun the process, completely forsake your AIC and regional development, leading to a very bad yield on your current AIC, which will then cripple your progression later on when you do eventually get to level 43 itself. So managing your AICs, learn to make the bases, and once you move into the next region, you will have a ready supply of materials and knowledge to transition seamlessly into Wuling for the endgame content. Now, the next mistake, which is pretty much going to be tied to the first one, which is not upgrading your regional development. Now, this is extremely important and honestly should be my very first point and the very first mistake you're probably making, which is Arknights Endfield at the end of everything is a game about capitalism, and I'm not joking. This is a buildings first, combat second game. Most, if not all, of your progression will be tied to the regional development via your sub-AICs, stock redistributions, as well as depots, which increases the regional development level. Reaching higher levels will then unlock more mining purity, which will then increase the output of all mining facilities, allowing for a higher yield to get more materials, which then translates to more stock value builds, which will then translate into more items, and the whole process kind of just repeats by itself. So once you hit the eventual end game of regional development, your output of goods should actually exceed the locals' GDP, which is gonna be like the entire village's income, because they basically cannot afford to buy all of your goods. This will ensure 100% stock value yield for whatever region, which then translates into more value builds for you to reinvest back into your empire. Now, we will be making dedicated guides for regional development as well as AIs in the future, but for now, be sure to not forsake this part as it will make everything in Arknights Endfield run a lot smoother. And tying to this previous point, which is gonna be your inefficient stock build spendings. So stock builds are essentially extremely scarce, especially in the early game, and there are a lot of things you can buy with them, namely the following: upgrading on AIC spaces and depot buses, upgrading or unlocking redistribution centers, upgrading or unlocking depots, upgrading or unlocking recycling centers, and stock redistribution market items. So out of all of these, follow this priority for maximum efficiency in case you have been spending your builds on the wrong item, which will greatly slow down your regional development process. Number 1, max out your elastic goods for the day depending on your stock redistribution levels, sell to a friend for the highest build return. Number 2, stock redistribution, which is going to be the bunny suit guy, get them, unlock them, and upgrade them to as high as you can as soon as possible, which will then help you generate more elastic goods, which is the highest single day income, as you can see from our point number 1. Number 3, unlocking your depots and recycling stations, which are very cheap to unlock for the cost of benefit. Followed by number 4, upgrading recycling stations to the max, cheap to upgrade while giving regional development EXP to level up. Number 5 is going to be upgrading your depot. This is going to be the most expensive of all of them, but it's still going to be additional income nonetheless. Now, after you finish the first 5 steps, then you can consider into upgrading your AIC or sub-AIC, sticking to first 1-to-1 area and depot expansion for all, then go down from this order: core AIC, Valley Pass, Science Park, and Power Pro 2, with Power Pro 2 being your last one because it is the most expensive thing to upgrade. And once every single thing above is gonna be done, you would have maxed out on the stock build efficiency in the game, with the remaining EXP coming from trading with the locals via capitalism. And at this point, proceed to buy your weekly refreshable items like the following. Leave the one-time clear items for the future when you can afford them. Eventually, by endgame, all of your stock builds from Valley and Wuling will be spent on your stable goods, which is gonna be weekly having a higher priority than your one-time purchases to increase your account progression, as it provides endgame gear materials and character upgrade materials, none of them requiring your stamina or sanity. So hopefully with this one, you can kind of get a better picture of where exactly do you spend on stock builds and not waste them. For example, buying items first before maxing out the upgrades for stock redistribution center. Now the next mistake is definitely gonna be pretty important, and that is caring too much about tier lists. So this is gonna be a very classic gacha game syndrome where, especially re-rollers, you want to spend hours to get a perfect account on your desired meta 6-star that are tier 0 on launch. As you can see from my tweet over here, tier lists are so integral to a gacha gamer that there will be nothing stopping someone from wanting the best unit in the game, especially for a free-to-play. This shows that the community concern on how important meta relevance is in Arknights Endfield is still gonna be a staple. Now, as someone that has almost exclusively chased meta in every single gacha game I've played, I can guarantee you this. It is literally pointless in Arknights Endfield, at least as of now, and it's not just a symbol, play for your waifu or ignore your meta, just do what you want. It is literally pointless in Arknights Endfield, especially in the early game. So as you can see over here, the meta is actually pointless because on launch, there is not a single content in the game that stresses on combat, minus the edge space salvage and one-time clears for re-crisis. Edge space salvage pretty much being similar to this most roguelike or like the SU, right, similar to Universe, but all the rewards you can see over here, they are essentially one-time clears. In essence, Arknights Endfield is not a game focused on combat, and it is very, very obvious from the way they stress the importance on regional development compared to the actual combat system. Even if Levitating is going to be the launch rate up with the most comfort clearing and the highest possible damage, which is honestly a little bit debatable, it doesn't matter as every single team now can clear every single combat related content from monophysical to electric to ice to cryo, even like nature mixed with your cryo, whatever it's going to be, with the only exception being nature DPS, as it doesn't have a main 6-star just yet. So for every single reroll and time spent on trying to get the quote-unquote meta 6-star, you could have just been spending that time learning on how the game works, learning the AIC, upgrading the bases, exploring the world, which would then give you much more impactful benefits to your account rather than a 6-star that deals the highest amount of damage, because majority of this game is not revolving around dealing the highest amount of damage. On top of that, I'm sure most if not all gacha players know by now, launch units, especially for standard units, often never hold permanent meta placements as time progresses, so whatever unit you're going to be rolling for, be it going to be the 1.0 rate ups or the different 5 standard units, the long-term impact is almost completely negligible, especially considering we haven't gotten our refreshable endgame as of this time of recording. So use what you have, build your empire, and don't burn yourself out re-rolling if you really want to enjoy Arknights Endfield. Now the next mistake is not having gears for your units. The gears in this game are essentially free, unlike other gacha games where you spend stamina to farm them. In Arknights Endfield, gears are all obtained via natural resources and stock builds, and endgame gear, which is going to be your level 70 gold gears, will use a completely different currency from your purple gears you're going to be getting in Valley 4. So a unit with purple versus blue gear is often a massive difference, especially if you're going to be stuck in the story bosses, which in Arknights Endfield can be very challenging for new players, unlike other mainstream gacha games. So craft from your AIC and don't be afraid to use them in the early game to help you progress. However, if you're more experienced and you want to skip purple straight to gold in order to use the stock builds on regional development like depots and redistribution centers, then feel free. But I would not recommend this for most players if you have no idea how the combat system works and you're going to be struggling a lot, especially on just blue gear. Now the next mistake is pretty much going to be leveling way too many units. A single unit in Arknights Endfield takes weeks of resources just to hit level 90, and that's not including the time bottleneck on essential materials, which means you cannot even farm them faster aside from the Dijiang bottleneck, which is gonna be a small fix. Ideally, you only hyper invest in a single main DPS with their respective supports. Your early game, you can afford to bring them out to level 40, but by mid game, which is around your purple gear level or right before you go to Wuling, only raise your main DPS to level 60 first. Then by end game, bring them to level 90 ASAP, and all other units remain at level 60 for the time being so that they can equip gold gears. As you can see from this level 10, she is pretty much the only unit I have on my account that is having this much of traits as well as level investments. All of my supports are pretty much all still stuck at either level 50 to 60, with our data being the only other level 80, as I want to take her to eventually using her in most of my teams. So far, Arknights Endfield doesn't have multi-team content, which means that a single team is more than sufficient to clear every single content for the game itself. The endgame content update is going to be happening roughly 1 week from the time of recording, but there's still no rush to build multiple units, and at best, you probably just need to build 2 main DPS for 2 teams if you really want to sweat out the endgame content coming up. Bonus, do not use your Mark of Perseverance just yet. It is extremely rare comparable to Golden Balls in HSR, Hamster Cage in Xenozone 0, as well as the Crowns in Genshin Impact. And there's really not a single content which requires a unit to actually use your marks, so save it for now until more difficult content actually requires your main DPS to have higher levels in their traces. Now moving on to the next, and this is going to be tied to your AIC, that is Improper yields and usage. This is actually extremely important because, like I mentioned, Arknights Endfield is a game about capitalism. And what better way to measure capitalism than looking at your income sheet? As you can see from this chart over here, always look at your AIC report. And if your yield ever goes below the usage, your stash of items will eventually run out, leading to a deficit and the eventual 0. So this is going to be shown when there are no blue lines above the orange line, and that's when it will also show a flashing red icon showing that you are using more than you are generating. Now, the goal of AIC in Arknights Endfield is to be fully self-sufficient, such that you never have to look at it ever again once you finalize it, letting it run by itself while creating products for either stock builds or gears. If the balance is off, this will cause the entire AIC to collapse as your supply chain is unsustainable, just like in real life when you have too much work and not enough rest. Check your facility outputs, which are always going to be starting at 30 per minute for raw materials like your ores, and adjust accordingly so that your yield can keep up with the usage. You either reduce your usage or increase your yield. So in order to increase your yield, they are capped by your regional development and unlocking all mining spots. Yes, you must unlock every single mining spot in Arknights Endfield by dragging pylons and relays all over the map. It is part of the game and no blueprint is going to actually help you, though luckily it is going to be just a one-time thing once you unlock every single mining spots. On the other hand, you can also reduce your usage by removing building facilities beyond your means. For example, if your facility cannot sustain a 18 per minute buck A capsule because your yield is not high enough due to lesser mining spots or lower regional levels, turn it down to 12 per minute or even 6 per minute. You can also remove any unnecessary products, such as removing buck B production if you're already at buck A by endgame, or removing purple gear production once at gold gear production. Then moving on to the next mistake, and that is going to be Forsaking your Dijiang interactions. So OMV Dijiang is basically going to be this game's dorm system, and it unlocks a lot of useful tools that makes the process faster, namely essential materials in growth chambers, unit and weapon EXP for manufacturing cabins, reception room for clues, which gives you credits for daily shops, as well as gifting operators for affections, which can then give you stat buffs. So as you can see over here, you want to do this every single day and finish all of these cabins, which will save you a lot of energy and sanity in the long run, as the farming stages consumes a lot in this game itself. So to develop your Dijiang, collect your materials from your recycling stations or your owls all over the map and upgrade them with your stock builds, which once again ties back to your regional development level. After you max out your Dijiang levels, the materials from your recycling stations are essentially worthless, but you still need to upgrade them just for more regional development EXP. Now going into our second last mistake, and that is going to be not making use of this game's friend system. So friends and Arknights Endfield actually have a lot more use cases than most gachas, ranging from additional stock build income, overall buildings, and credits from visiting and helping their progress. The biggest use of your friends is pretty much going to be trading your illustrated goods for way more than market price, i.e. the stock market, netting you hundreds of thousands if not millions of stock builds in a single day. These are purely RNG with regards to how much you're going to be able to sell them compared to local. Sometimes you get a good percentage, sometimes you get it worse, but it still significantly boosts your income, especially in the early game where your output products has not been developed just yet. Another thing for your friends is going to be the depot transfer jobs, which is another way for both you and your friends to earn more stock builds, letting others do your depot jobs while you do theirs, letting both parties higher builds in the process. Now this has less importance than elastic goods and stock redistribution centers, especially in the early game, since depot upgrades are extremely expensive in the start and only recommended after stock redistributions are maxed out. Lastly, you can visit your friends' Dijiangs for additional daily credits via clue exchange or helping them production assists, up to 5 each a day as you get more credits to clear the daily credit shop. You can also see the achievements, decors, and weapon flags in the ship for more fun interactions. Now we are going to come into our very last mistake, and that is going to be only Yoinking blueprints. So this one might be a little bit controversial because I'm speaking on this as someone who absolutely hated the AIC and everything it represented since CBT2. And after grinding this game non-stop for at least a week straight with barely any sleep, I've actually come to realize how important it is to understanding the AIC aspect of this game, or the building portion. Because while blueprints are insanely good quality of life for all players, the communities coming together, build the Ultra Empire to get the maximum unit efficiency, especially for casuals who want to skip the AIC system as much as possible. I personally feel that understanding how AIC works, at least at the fundamental level, will help you a lot in the long term. It's a little bit like the example of a custom built PC versus a pre-built PC. You can get a pre-built PC by yoinking it in Arknights Endfield, but if something were to go wrong, like a production build getting clogged, or if you want to just adjust an input and output of a certain material, it will become very tedious because you have no idea how to customize what to do in the blueprint, especially at the start where not every blueprint is made for every single player, because different players will be at different stages of development depending on the early game, mid game, late game, etc. So having basic knowledge like yield and material formulas will greatly improve your enjoyment and time efficiency in AIC, allowing you to customize specific yields to your need, such as more gold gears, or more Yajan sprays, or more wounding batteries, or maybe you need more steel parts to build more defenses to finish your tower defense missions. And yes, I'm saying this as someone who couldn't fathom having my own blueprints as well as bases customized to my own needs. If you still want to join blueprints, by all means do so. We're also going to be having our dedicated AIC guide with all of the blueprints available, but just to be cautious in case something goes wrong or if you want an output specific to your needs. With that, we have come to the end of our top 10 beginners mistakes in today's content. Let me know if I've missed out on anything and any tips that you guys can provide for other players as well. All the best for our guided pools, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.